Hey everyone, Brendan Sander here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I collect together all the different things that I've purchased over the past week, including this bad boy behind me there I'll talk about, but also all the CDs, vinyl, anything like that that I've picked up. I've got 30 things to run through with you and we'll do that here in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you're going to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with new music finds. All right, so as I said, 30 things to run through here. I'll try to blow through them pretty fast. I like to kick off with new releases. First one up, finally got my own copy of The Beatles' new single, Now and Then, on CD. $10 for one track, but I do have it now in the collection. Of course, they probably knew that we would shell out for it, whether you were buying it on 10-inch, 7-inch, you were buying it off of, they added it to the Blue album. Number of different ways you could get a hold of it, but I was holding out for just a CD single. I am glad that I have it. It's a good track. I like it. I don't think it's the greatest thing they ever did, but as one final last hurrah for the Beatles, I think it's pretty cool to be getting that. Now, the thing that I was most interested in this past week was this, a UFO archival live release, which is called Live at the Oxford Apollo 1985. So this was done on their Ain't Misbehavin' tour. And we have Atomic Tommy M as the guitar player, Paul Gray as the bassist, and Jim Simpson as drummer on here, along with Paul Raymond and Phil Mogg on vocals and keyboards respectively there. But the cool thing is this is just not an era that is highly documented by the band. So to be getting this, and it turned out to be really great quality. Plus there's a little bit of a write-up in here, got some other cool photos and stuff like that, so made for a nice little package archival release to be getting that. I've been enjoying the UFO archival releases, although I've only picked up a couple so far because they are hit or miss. This one turned out to be good. Okay, the Kinks released The Journey Part 2, and I talked about this in the What Just Dropped episode. Then I went to Princeton Record Exchange and decided to go ahead and pick it up, and I'm glad that I did. The collection and the way that it's organized together made for a very interesting listen. It's not just your typical best of. And it's a 2-disc. They organized this one based on relationship of songs that have to do with trials and tribulations that people go through. So it kind of gave it a bit of a concept or a themed feel to it. Since I picked up this, I also went ahead and picked up Journey Part 1. Not quite as theme oriented as the Journey Part 2, but cool nonetheless. 2 discs. This one definitely focuses more on their 60s era content, whereas this one has both 60s and 70s era. I mean, they both do, but this one was a nice mix of both. This one I found heavily focused on the 60s era. But either way, cool to get both of those. I don't know if they're planning on doing a third one or not, but for now we've got these two, and that was cool. So this was from past week, or weeks plural, of a release, the Fusion Syndicate. So this one here called Beautiful Horizon. Again, it's another one of those ones I talked about in the What Just Dropped series that I was more putting together to alert you guys to things than after I found out about it, I decided to give it a chance. And I'm really glad I did. I think this is their 3rd album, but didn't really know much about them or anything. I know there's a lot of guests that come on to do this. We have Helios Creed on guitar, Tony Kaye on keyboards, Steve Morse on guitar, Justin Chancellor's on here, Marty Friedman, Steve Hillage, Robbie Krieger, number of really famous people guesting on this. It's all put together by one guy in particular. His name is Fernando Perdomo. I don't know where he comes from. Maybe one of you guys can tell me, but I noticed that he is on all of the tracks and he also produces this. The songs are all written by him. I don't know if he did the first 2 of these, and maybe if he did, I'll choose to pick those up. But again, took a chance on it, found out more information once I got it. Progressive rock, predominantly instrumental, although there is a couple vocal tracks on here. There's also 3 bonus tracks, so that's kind of cool, rounding it out, giving you a little bit of extra stuff. But There's the back side of it, so you can see what I was talking about with all the guests and stuff. And just great album art. I will say that the album art on this, along with a few of the other Cleopatra records and Purple Pyramid, all the ones that are under the same banner there, sometimes speak to me more simply based on how good the art is. All right, and Sharinian Phillips live. Again, this one came out, I don't know if it's a few weeks or a few months at this point, but it was one that I knew about, but I didn't really look into until I found it at Princeton Record Exchange and thought, hey, let me give it a shot, because even though it was new, they were selling it as a used price, and it certainly whetted my appetite, made me more interested in it. But it's all compositions that Derek Sharinian and Simon Phillips wrote together, and I don't know if they all appeared on Derek Sharinian solo albums, but they were all songs, I think, that are like that, meaning they've come out. Well, they grouped them all together here, and they went out and did a tour. And while I didn't know it when I was purchasing it, I later found out, of course, when I opened the album, although you guys seem to be shocked that I didn't know who Ron Thal. Well, I didn't know that was Ron Thal at the time. I found out after I opened the album. That picture didn't speak to me and say, hey, it's Ron Thal. Nor is there anywhere on here that tells me who the guys are. So I found out after opening it, and that made it even better getting him as the guitar player on here. All right, now thumbing through, the shorts and the different little 1-minute videos that pop up on Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. One of those places, and I think it was Facebook, this artist popped up on, and I'm not usually one to just run out and buy something that I hear a little snippet of, but it was so good that I said, I got to figure out who this is, found out who they were. Then I went and watched a number of music videos on their YouTube channel and chose to go ahead and pick this up. Anthony Gomez. Never before seeing that little snippet in one of those shorts did I know who this was. It is marketed under being blues, but in my opinion, this is anything but straight blues. This is hard rock blues, certainly, but definitely in the hard rock vein. It's on Rat Pat Records. It came out in 2022. He's got other albums, but this one here was the one that had the track that I first heard from him on it, but also I just thought the art on it was killer. And we've got Chris Collier is doing the mixing and mastering. He's worked with David Coverdale of Whitesnake doing those remasters, so if you like those and that sound, that's who this guy is here. Songs to check out. Number 8, Turn It Up, was awesome. And the song that caught my attention that had some killer keyboards in it was Hell and Half of Georgia. Check that out. Those 2 tracks, watch the music videos for those. They really spoke to me, so I picked that up. All right, as I mentioned, I hit up Princeton Record Exchange, so I'm going to kind of blow through these because I made a whole video on scores from the record store that covered these purchases, but I found a Wounded Bird edition of the Sean and Hammer album. So Neil Sean from Journey, Jan Hammer, Jeff Beck Group, among others. And cool thing is, track number 5 on here, which is Self-Defiance on here, also has Steve Smith, Ross Fowler, and Steve Perry of Journey on it. So it's like a Journey track, just featuring Jan Hammer on keyboards instead of Jonathan Cain. So if you ever wanted to know what it would have sounded like had he joined the band, check this out. So that was a cool find, enjoyed that. Found this, didn't know that I was going to enjoy it so much. Rick Vito, and this is called King of Hearts. He was the guitar player who took over for Lindsey Buckingham and Fleetwood Mac around 87, 88. In that time frame, recorded one album, I think it was called Behind the Mask, and he did some other stuff with them, but good solid 5-year period, if not maybe a little longer, but only made the one album. So I've always wanted something from him in my collection to hear what he sounded like outside of the band. This is 1992. It's on Atlantic Records. It's also on the Modern Records label, which put out all the stuff from Stevie Nicks, among other people related to her in the Fleetwood Mac family. She appears on 2 of the songs on here, included singing co-lead on Desiree, track number 3. So check that out if you want to hear Rick Vito with Stevie Nicks on that. Gary Moore, Victims of the Future, alternate album cover. This just spoke to me. I like the art. It's cheesy 80s art, so I had to pick it up. But I found out more about it once I got home and was actually even more happy that I bought it, because it wasn't just a change in the art. The track listing is slightly different. Not only the order of the songs, but also that they put on, I think it's the song All I Want. That one appears on here, and maybe it's Empty Rooms. I can't remember exactly, but one of the tracks they swapped out for the UK. Then they also added a track that had only appeared on cassette. So there's a couple different things like that on here that were different. And I have to say I like this rendition of it better, mostly because the song Shapes of Things, which is the cover of the Yardbirds song, it's a great song. I just would rather hear Gary Moore instead of Yardbirds. That was track number 3 on the original. That one has since moved to track number 6 on here. So again, just a couple different things making all that much more interesting. In fact, I'm just realizing that I have there's the original here, and this is the North American or US edition of it. So, and if you want to pause on this and check out the track listing, you can do that with it. So there you go. Okay, Baker Gurvitz's Army. So Ginger Baker of Cream, Adrian Gurvitz from the band Gun, among Three-Man Army, I think was the other group, which is how they got the Baker Gurvitz's Army thing going together. This is the second album, I think, and very much enjoying it. I've got the first one, absolutely loved it. I do have a box set that has all 3 of their albums, but again, I'm trying to collect the Esoteric Recordings jewel case editions of it. So added that to the collection. T.Rex album, Dandy in the Underworld. This one, again, have it in a box set, but this was a standalone issue of it that's got a bunch of bonus content. And again, I like my jewel case edition, so sometimes after I buy the box sets, and in this particular case, the T.Rex I bought in one fellow swoop. I didn't own any T.Rex in my collection, and I got interested in it, and I bought an entire box set to explore all at once. But now I'm kind of doing it in reverse, where I'm buying the jewel case editions of it with all the bonus content that's from that. It's not that I don't want that box set, it's just the box set doesn't have that bonus content, but it has other bonus content because the box set itself came with 2 or 3 discs of unreleased material that they compile that are bonus discs in there. So all in all, good to have, but I know some of you guys were questioning why I was duplicating albums when I was talking about this during the Scores from the Record Store video, but that's a little insight there into it for you guys. Edgar Winter Collection, this one here being a Rhino Records edition. Turns out I did like this one a lot better than the more modern day collection that I had picked up from him at the time when that was all I could find. This one being an out of print album from 1989. Yeah, I think it's 1989. So going back to 1989, but there's a much more modern day compilation that I have that sometimes I have to say that in general, most of the greatest hits packages that come out today, as they call them, oftentimes complete greatest hits or things like that, the essential, they're, first of all, you're usually chronologically ordered, which I don't like, but I don't know, they just don't seem to cover the best of the best. Whereas if you get something during the heyday of an artist or at the tail end of a high-end period for the band, after the 70s and into the 80s, and even if they were tapering off a bit in the 80s the way Edgar Winter did, still very much in the public eye, I usually find those compilations to be a lot better. It's like Foreigner Records is better than Foreigner Complete Greatest Hits. Bad Company, I think it's called 10 from 6, far better than their version of greatest hits or best ofs that are out there on the market. All right, Days of the New, second album, simply referred to as the Green Album, I think. Turned out to be good. I definitely liked the first one a lot better, but this one was fun nonetheless. Picked up Public Image Limited in their reunion album for 2023, celebrating 40th anniversary, I think. This one here is called End of World. I have not gotten into it yet, mostly because this thing has been packaged up so well that I can't really figure out how to get into it, but I think I'm just going to have to cut the plastic off. This was all folded up and done on here in a special way. But I got the brand new album only for $5.99, so that turned out to be great. Not dying to get into that. It's an entirely different style of musical that I've sunk my teeth into currently, so it'll sit out for a little bit longer, but in the next few days or so, I'm sure I'll dig into it. All right, Spirit Adrift. And I think I mispronounced that the last time. I might have said Spin Adrift. I have no idea why I keep doing that. It's a flub. But this one here, 20 Centuries Gone, has 2 new originals and 6 cover songs on it. And I didn't know the cover songs immediately on here, but they do a Typo Negative song, a Pantera song, Hollow. They do Thin Lizzy, Waiting for an Alibi, Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, a ZZ Top song, Poison Whiskey. Lots of cool stuff on here. Turned out to be really cool. The 2 original songs sound great because it sounds like this band, Spirit Adrift, exactly what you'd expect. But the cover songs, they do a nice twist on. And it's great because I can still hear those artists in it, but I can also hear what this band brings to them. All right, we're not done. We're maybe halfway through. So this was a cool find. Sound Exchange, local record store, Anthony sometimes does little flip throughs. He posts them on Instagram, and I saw a stack of CDs that had come in, and this was in it. Misfits Evil Live. It's the last Misfits album I've been looking for. It's been hard to come by. I didn't want to shell out a ton of money to get it, but I did want to come across it and find. And so they had it. I called up. I asked them to put it aside for me, and I went in the next day and got it. And I'm really glad I did. Get to finish off my Misfits collection. I now have all the official releases. Got a few unofficial releases in there, like 12 Hits from Hell, the album that Cleopatra Records was going to put out, and Glenn Danzig put the kibosh on. But I managed to get one of 2,000 copies that were released to radio stations, stuff like that. So it's an official release, just never got released. Anyway, Misfits. Picked up a number of T.Rex and Mark Bolan things, talking about, the dandy in the underworld. But then I went on to pick this up called Dirty Sweet, which is just a greatest hits compilation, but it is the volume 2 of it, so it's not quite all the big hits. There are a few of them that are on here, but it's definitely some of the deeper stuff. I like that. Then I found this, T.Rex Stars and Cars. Stars and Cars in the Ballrooms of Mars. Very cool lyric line that I know is in one of the songs. So the track listing that's on here, read through it, you go, okay, this is going to be our greatest hits. But what I found out, it's actually a selection of all the alternate versions of things, because there's so much of the stuff that has come out through the Unchained series, the alternate album editions, stuff like that. So they put together essentially a best of and released it. But this, as I found out, and again, hard to come by some information on this, but I believe this is part of a box set, because it mentions that on the inside here, and there's also no UPC symbol or anything on this. So I think this is part of a box set collection that got released, which I want to do a little more research on to figure out exactly. But it was nice that I found it the way that I did, because again, something I'd never seen. I like getting that on its own. Probably don't need the rest of what's in the box set, but as a best of, a cool little compilation like that wasn't readily available to the masses, pretty interesting. And then I just mentioned this, the Unchained series. There's a whole series of this stuff out there, volumes 1 through 9, I think. I chose to pick this one up not only because it was used and it was a good price, but this is volume 5, 1974, and it covers part of my favorite era from the group Zip Gun era. And so seeing that those songs are on here, realizing that the numbers have to do with the eras that it was covering, that it's not something that always covered 72 to 77, their heyday, but in fact covered years. And so that meant a lot more to me. And then I picked this up, and I may buy more of them going forward, but I do also have a best of the Unchained series. So I managed to find that too at a different time. Got into a bit of a Gary Moore based on Victims of the Future release there. I found this called The Early Years, WTG on the Epic Records, make sure I hold that up right, there we go, label that put together the 80s era in a best of. Nothing that I didn't already have on other comps and stuff like that, but I just wanted to go ahead and pick this up. I am a true collector in that sense. I don't have to have everything by an artist, but if I think that that comp is going to sound better to me in the sequencing and the selection of tracks, then I may go and get that. In fact, since I was already turning around doing this before, I have this one by Gary Moore, as well as all the albums that he did up until he reverted back to the blues in about 1990. But this one here I like, except that it does have a few blues numbers on it that I feel breaks the flow. It's a fantastic compilation, but I was sort of hoping this one here might strip all that away and just be more of the hard rock metal sound that he did. And it is, but I have to say in the end of the day, it just made me want to go back to this one. So, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I picked up We Want More, live album from the Victims of the Future tour. So 1984 live Gary Moore. It sounds fantastic. Adds one bonus track, Parisian Walkways, has been added to the original release. So now there's 11 songs on it. And again, you know, I talk about my love and dislove of live albums. I have found that ones from the late 70s and early 80s with the really big crowd noise, whether it's fake or not, I like those a lot better than the ones that are smaller when the bands are on the downturn and they're in a club or something like that. I really don't want to hear individual people hollering out, but an even drone of crowd noise, I'm actually okay with. Keeping on the Gary Moore stuff, I picked up Coliseum 2 and their album Strange New Flesh, debut album in fact. And what I didn't know, doing a little more research, plus there's a really great write-up because this is an Esoteric Records reissue and it's a 2-disc set, but there was Coliseum, the first group, and Coliseum 2, and the only person between that was their drummer. And so the original band was much more fusion jazz, I think, if I understand correctly. And then while this kept some of that, this became more prog and hard rock even. So Gary Moore being in here, but also having Neil Murray on bass, who I of course know from White Snake, but he did lots of things. Don Airey from Rainbow and Ozzy, and currently with Deep Purple and stuff. But when I read that we had Gary Moore, Neil Murray, and Don Airey in here, I thought, I've got to check it out. I've never checked it out before because I actually thought it was all blues. And it's not. It's definitely got some hard rock, and it goes into the fusion jazz, but progressive leanings with a little bit of pop thrown in on it too. All in all, I have to say I enjoyed it. It's definitely very much of the 70s, but definitely did enjoy that. Because of all the Kinks stuff, I went and picked up a Dave Davies album I didn't have in my collection. This one called Bug from 2002. I can't say why I never picked it up because I actually thought I had it. I passed it over the first time I saw it and came home and confirmed, in fact, I did not have it. So the next time I went back to Sound Exchange, I was able to pick that up. And just being on a kick for some new UFO, or it's not new UFO, but more UFO. I can always use some more UFO. I own every album from them, but I got this and I just wanted some more. So I picked up a deluxe edition of Phenomenon, and it's a 3-disc set. I'll flip it around there for you guys. So you get the original album, you get a whole disc of bonus tracks, and you get a live show on it. So that turned out to be really cool. Plus it's just got really great packaging on it. It is the digipack, but I made sure in fact that the spine was not, bent in any manner, and all in all was good with it. I don't mind digipacks when they come in great condition like this, and I bought this at a store, so that's why it looks the way that it does. I will keep it in pristine condition going forward. So my love and dislove of digipacks isn't just straight out the digipack. I prefer the jewel case because as most things get shipped to me, when they get broken, I can swap that out. But the digipack itself, if I get in pristine condition, I can usually keep it that way. Okay, I also got some vinyl this past week. I picked this older Record Store Day release, Judas Priest 5 Souls. So this is the 5 songs that were bonus songs on the Redeemer of Souls album. And luckily I got it for a better deal than that price right there, so I don't feel so bad about it. Did some trade on stuff, so I was able to get a hold of this for a lot better deal. But gearing up for Record Store Day coming this Friday. So I've been definitely in the Record Store Day release mindset. Talking about UFO, I picked this up on vinyl too. I've always loved the album cover of it. I've got it on CD with this album cover too, but I've also been slowly collecting some of my favorite albums just as in art sense. And this being one of them, always love this. Anything that, I think this is another Storm Thurgeson Hypnosis album cover. Just looking to see if I could find it real quick on the back here. I'm not seeing it. Oh, yep, Storm Thurgeson, there it is, photography. So I love the album art. I can pick his stuff out in an instant. This is one of them. I've actually never come across this in vinyl format, meaning the bigger art form like this. So finally got a hold of that and was glad to pick that up. $10, not a bad deal on that one. This turned out to be very cool. Again, you saw the T.Rex Mark Bolan stuff that I've been getting. And I found this, 1972, this vinyl release. And yeah, there is a box set of 3 or 4 CDs of this, but this is a selections of on vinyl. So side A, it's a 2 vinyl set. Side A has Live at Wembley, March 1972, 5 tracks. Then side B is 1972 US and UK radio sessions. There's 6 tracks there. Next LP of this, side C, Watch Me Now. So this one here is, I think, from the movie that he did. And then side D is called T.Rex, which I like the title. And it's just some unreleased tracks and stuff like that. So there was 6 songs on the Watch Me Now and 6 more on T.Rex. So again, it's a selections of, and it was just very cool to find. I would have loved to have gotten this on a 2 CD set. But I will buy vinyl when that is the only way I can get a hold of something. And this one here from Princeton Records Exchange, and I had shown you this one in my scores from the record store. Oingo Boingo, first EP, released on vinyl again. And I had mentioned, I was hoping this would come out on CD, and somebody mentioned that I can find these bonus tracks on one of, maybe it's the debut album that got released. And I know that they're there, but I want the album art packaging. I'd rather get an actual CD with this art and everything, and then the 5 tracks that are on here. But I've gone ahead and added this to my collection right now. It's on gray and black vinyl, and it's limited to only 500 copies. So that in and of itself intrigued me. If it was probably a more standard release, I might not have picked it up, but since it's only been available on 500 copies, I'm probably never going to find the original one. Glad to go ahead and add that to the collection. All right, and for this bad boy behind me that I mentioned right at the top of this, as I mentioned, I took some trade in to Sound Exchange, and I did a deal with Anthony, and he hooked me up on some cool stuff that I had always wanted but never really wanted to spend the money on. And this was one of them. Doors, cool Doors live poster. These things are just beautiful art in and of themselves. It was already framed in this beautiful cherry wood. It's already got the mounting and everything, so I could simply come home and hang this right on my wall and be ready to go. And so for me, it was a good deal to get because I don't have to buy the poster, go get it framed, wait for all that sort of stuff, or try to find the exact frame that fits that piece of artwork. Instead, I could just go ahead and bring that home. So that was a nice little score. That's going to go up here in my music room. I'm really excited about that. There's another one that I've been eyeing that I'm going to be talking to Anthony about. Maybe you'll see that one in a future episode. But there you go, 30 items that I picked up. And I don't buy this stuff every week, as you guys know if you're watching these, but if you are new to my channel, this was because I've been off for the holiday week. I took the whole week off here. And so, fitting in Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, before you guys see this episode, I've been hitting up music stores and stuff and having a good time. And so I've got a lot more stuff in my weekly collection here than I normally do. But that's why. All dealing with vacation and being able to hit up lots of record stores. And I still got a few more to go. We got new releases that come out on Friday. Yeah, there are actually some new releases dropping, even though it's record store day. Then we got record store day. So next Wednesday's episode of New Music Finds will have a lot in it, I'm sure, as well. So stick around, make sure to come back for that. But hey, don't forget to hit up your local record store for Record Store Day this Friday, November 24th, and we can all be celebrating together afterwards. Okay, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.